You don't have a motivation problem. You've got a system problem. Hi, this is episode 718, and I'm Greg Swanson. And today we're going to be discussing a little bit about the science of motivation. So, most people don't lack ambition, they lack access to science backed tools to stay consistent when it counts. I mean, think about it. There are times when we've all been ambitious, we've all been fired up, we get it, and then we fizzle ourselves out because we don't have the tools, the proven tools necessary to keep that ambition, that motivation going. In this episode, we're breaking down the science of motivation and willpower, two different things, what drives it, what drains it, and how to build unstoppable momentum towards your goals. So let's look at motivation first. Motivation is a dopamine driven expectation of reward, right? So dopamine doesn't always come after the reward, it comes before the reward. So we feel good about what we're going to do because we anticipate a certain result. Now that's great for a while, but then if we start thinking about how much of pain it's going to be, how much annoyance it's going to be, that dopamine drops off and our motivation drops off. So it's great to start our activities, if you will, using motivation, which is again the dopamine. We want to leverage that as best as possible, but we don't want to depend on it all the time. And so then there's willpower, right? So we have motivation gets us going, willpower will keep us going to a certain point, but willpower is a finite resource. It's drained by stress, distractions, and decisions. And there's a great book out there called Willpower. You wake up, and this is why AM routines, which we'll get into a little bit more, are so important because you don't want to wake up. Well, you want to wake up, but you want to wake up and you want to take care of the things that are automatic for you. Such as what you don't want to do is check your phone for text, emails, social media. You don't want to get up and wondering what you're going to wear. You don't want to get up and think about, all the things that you have to do for the day, because all of those decisions, all of that thinking diminishes your willpower. So when it comes time to activate motivation and follow it with willpower, both of those things are going to be minimized. Your brain craves predictable progress, not perfection. So when we set this perfection objective, it's going to demotivate us because it's going to be so far out there. We can shoot for excellence, but what we want to do is have predictable progress. I'll use the weight room, for example. You're in there and you're deadlifting 135 and you're looking for perfection of 225 and you try 225, it doesn't work. Well, your motivation's going to go down. Well, I'm going to use willpower to lift it. Well, willpower fails. But if you did 135, 140, 145, 150, 155, and you tracked this progress, one, you would get the dopamine going because of the reward part of it, but also you would see that you're making predictable progress based on how you track it. And that's what we want to take a look at. And again, that, self-control is not a skill. I mean, it is a skill. It's not a trait. So you don't born with self-control. It's something that you develop. We could call it discipline. Discipline is the key, and we're going to get into this too, but better to have discipline than willpower. Better to have discipline than motivation, because your motivation may drop, but if you're disciplined to do what you know you need to do, for instance, going to the gym 5 o'clock in the morning, you may not be motivated. Your willpower may be slacking, but your discipline kicks in, and so that's what you're going to do. So self-control, aka discipline, is a skill and it can be developed, and the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Why most people struggle with staying motivated? It's because motivation isn't consistent. It's triggered by emotion, environment, and energy. And actually, if you want to look at it, More specifically, motivation is external. Inspiration is internal. So motivation can be, hey, you're going to be fired if you don't get this done. Hey, you're going to get a reward if you get this done. Hey, you're going to, right? We are motivated by external events or rewards based on a certain behavior. When we can take that and shift it to inspiration, I'm inspired to do the best I can at the gym. I'm inspired to be the best coach. I'm inspired. I don't need somebody cheering me on and telling me how great I am or how lousy I am. I inspire myself to take that action. So the thing is, motivation isn't constant because it's just like you know, a hot air balloon. You keep putting hot air in it, it keeps going up. You turn off the hot air, the balloon collapses. That's like motivation. So it's okay to start the ball rolling, if you will, start taking action based on motivation, but it's going to die out very quickly. And so the other part is that this lack of clarity equals a lack of a drive. And this is why goals are so important, as well as mental rehearsal and visualization. If we don't know why we're doing something, the clarity of it, if we don't have a definite path in mind, if we don't have a definite end result, the motivation is going to go and the inspiration is going to go because we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. So we want to have this clarity also. So, the thing is here, we're looking at it. Motivation isn't constant, and lack of clarity equals lack of drive. When you think about times that you started something and you stopped, most likely it was triggered by an external event, your motivation dropped, and then you didn't have clarity on what you tried to accomplish, so you stop it. Goals that don't emotionally connect with you equals zero traction. So we're getting back to that inspiration part of it. When you have a goal that you are inspired, that burns that fire deep down in your soul, then you don't need motivation. You don't need willpower. You will just have that discipline to make sure it gets done. So when you set goals, again, a lot of my clients, they'll set goals and I'll ask them, what will happen if they don't hit it? And they go, oh, no big deal. And already they failed. If you have goals that you have set and it's no big deal if you hit it or if you don't, get rid of them. You want to have goals that are inspiring you, and we want to make sure we know the difference between a goal and a to-do list, right? Oh, it's my goal to do the dishes tonight. No, that's a to-do list. There are goals that push you beyond your limits so that you can become a better person to achieve that goal. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So habits are bigger than hustle, right? We can hustle, we can go and work and spend a lot of energy, and then that depletes it, and then we're done for 4 or 5 days. But habits, when you continually do the same thing over and over again and make the small incremental progress, they are so much larger. They're so much more influential than just trying to hustle. Hustle comes and hustle goes. Habits stay with you. And then, so we want to take a look at, right? Clarity, your goal, equals action, which equals feedback, which equals emotion, right? So when we have clarity on what we want to do, we're going to take action. We're going to get feedback that we accomplished it. And we're going to get this emotion, which then can turn into inspiration. So the willpower trap, right? Why grit isn't enough. Yes, we want to have grit. We want to have resolve. We want to have mental strength. But sometimes it's just not enough because we're depending on a force as opposed to a habit, right? You're not lazy, when it comes to this stuff. You're just misaligned, right? You're misaligned physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and perhaps even misaligned with your goal. Willpower alone is like trying to sprint a marathon. Oh, I can do it. You're great for the first 50 yards, 100 yards, maybe 400 yards, but now you have 26 more miles to go, and it's like, it's not going to work. You could grit it out, but you're not going to sprint. You're just not going to do it. You're going to end up doing something else. So grit isn't enough when you start looking at the long-term picture, right? Success equals systems, identity shifts, and strategic friction reduction. So this means that you want to have a system in place. You want to have an identity shift about yourself, like I am motivated or I am inspired. I have, right? You want to create this because a lot of people who set goals subconsciously go, well, I don't hit these goals. Why bother? And they have this non supportive talk, self talk about it based on their identity. So we want to have an identity shift that supports the systems and that we can strategically reduce the friction that's holding us back. So you want to stack your environment for success, such as an AM routine. You set your clothes out the night before. You know what workout you're going to do. You have your lunch or food already prepared. You want to stack your environment so that you have it. So you wake up, you have your water, you get dressed, you go to the gym. Everything is laid out. It's all stacked, which is going to equal success. And so we want to take a look at like an iceberg, right? So the willpower is the tip of it. It's just a small little bit, but your identity and system is what's below the surface. That's the most important. When you have that identity and systems in place, then the willpower can peak out and it doesn't have to be used. It's almost like we think of it upside down. Willpower is the bottom of the iceberg and our systems are on the top. And that's why we don't work, why we don't get what we want, because the willpower will diminish. So now we want to take a look at how to train motivation and willpower like a warrior. You think of a warrior, specifically a samurai. They do this, they do these short sprints of training. They're dedicated, they're disciplined. They don't wait for motivation, they're disciplined. They know what they have to do and they know why they have to do it. So you want to create rituals, not routines. I look at rituals as being mindful about what you're doing. Routines are mindless. You brush your teeth, it's a routine. You don't think about it. You're brushing your teeth and your mind goes someplace else, or you're watching TV at the same time. A ritual would be you would feel the bristles against your gums. You would feel how clean it is, right? So you focus. Rituals are more mindful, and this is really great to practice mindfulness, is you can convert your routines into rituals, but you want to create rituals that support where you want to go, your motivation, and not routines. One of the things that I often use with myself, my clients, is using those 4 C's of mental strength, right? Control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. Control what you can, yourself and your emotions. Commit to goals. Challenge yourself, step out of your comfort zone, and have confidence in your skills and abilities. So those are the 4, and that's the heart of my coaching. And I work with people to work with all of those. And you get those 4 C's aligned, you won't need motivation. Yeah, you can use motivation, leverage it, but those 4 C's are going to build discipline, which will take you a lot further. So leveraging morning momentum, right? It set the tone, win early. I can't overemphasize getting a great morning ritual. Wake up, hydrate. If you don't have a gym, do some yoga, go for a walk, do some gratitude. Your morning rituals are supposed to energize you, create a positive attitude, and show some appreciation for the day itself. So you want to have everything stacked in your success. When you win the morning, you're going to win the day. And this reflects, on your internal motivation, inspiration, if you will, but you want to set that tone. You want to be inspired when you wake up for the tasks ahead. And if you're caught checking your cell phone, checking text, checking Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever, you're just going to deplete your momentum and your motivation. So you want to get a routine that turns into a ritual, so it's mindful, and you guard that ritual for everything it's worth. So here's some final thoughts, right? So motivation is a signal, not a strategy. It means that you can get inspired and start moving, but it's not a strategy. Building habits and systems instead. So you want to build the habits, the rituals, the systems that support where you want to go. So basically you don't have to think. You just go there and do the actions. Willpower is trainable. Start by managing your inputs and your environment. So willpower is a start. So we go motivation, willpower, discipline. But we want to start with the motivation based on we want to know what inspires us instead, and we want to build those habits and systems. And then we start to train our willpower by controlling our inputs and our environment. And then we tap into the inner warrior, right? Use the science to fuel the mindset, the 4 C's, some goal setting, right? Micro habits, all of those things we want to leverage so that when we start taking action, we will finish what we start. If you want to see the show notes on this podcast, you can visit warriormindcoach.com for more useful information. While you're over there, you can book your breakthrough session now. Get some space on there, and we can talk more about motivation, inspiration, and how to get you accomplishing the goals that you truly, really want to. And then please subscribe to the Warrior Mind podcast for more mental strength strategies. Since you'll be on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, all under Warrior Mind Coach.